Did you know the two rival artists during the Renaissance, Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, started their art journey by becoming an apprentice during their early teens for 7 and 3 years respectively? Da Vinci started the famous painting of the Mona Lisa at the age of 51, finishing the project 12 to 16 years later. Michelangelo, at the age of 33, started the paintings on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, finishing those paintings 4 years later at the age of 37. Their art journey did not happen overnight. It took Da Vinci 53 years and Michelangelo 24 to learn and develop their skills from the beginning of their apprenticeship until the completion of these masterpieces. Unlike these artists, I was neither apprenticed nor enrolled in an art school, but I cultivated a love for art, which has developed my character, taught me to overcome challenges, and most importantly, witness God's work in my life. Good morning, teachers, parents, and fellow homeschoolers. Today I will be sharing with you my journey as a drawer. I started drawing out of boredom in my dad's office at the age of 6. I would draw page after page of different types of houses that were extremely unfriendly for the elderly. In second grade, I wrote and illustrated my own short story which I entitled Chili on the Floor. At around 7 to 8 years old, I drew the different activities my family and I did during our travels to both Korea and New Zealand. But suddenly, pandemic hit, and like everyone else, I was trapped in my own home. Once again, boredom drove me to draw and create, giving me the desire to develop my skills to create drawings like the ones I admire. But I struggled with following the simplest of instructions that would be given in YouTube drawing tutorials, and I would often quit halfway through the video. Along with this struggle was the frustration of expectations versus reality. When I started an art project, I would have this grand vision in my head. But when I saw the outcome, I'd feel like scribbling all over it because of how ugly it looked. When I tried to draw a dog, I imagined this. But I drew that. When I wanted to sketch a horse, it looked like that. And when I tried to draw people, they looked like that. But as they often say, it's just the ugly face. And I kept trying again and again. When I grew tired of drawing a specific subject, I would put it on hold to come back to when I felt ready. I found my passion in arts in 8th grade when my family advisor encouraged me to create more physical projects for my portfolio. And I did! YouTube went from being my library of how-tos to becoming my source of inspiration, keeping my creative juices flowing. I've started figuring out different methods and techniques to create textures and experimenting with all the ways I could create a mark on paper. Finally, my weird horse attempts started to look more realistic. My dogs started to look cuter. And the portraits I made turned from aliens to who they were actually supposed to look like. Through art, I've learned how to take more risks. I've attempted different art challenges that would push my limits, allowing me to improve not just in my art, but also in life. One of these challenges is the pen challenge. Through this challenge, I've improved in my decision making and cautiousness because I couldn't undo my mistakes. Just like in life, we have to be careful of what we say and do because we can't hit Control Z and do it again. But even if we can't erase or redo our mistakes, God can use those mistakes in ways we can't possibly have thought of. It says in Romans 8, verse 28, all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. Aside from risk-taking, I've also learned how to let go. How would you feel if you poured so much effort into a project, working on it for weeks, months, or maybe even years, and for it to be just ruined by rain? For me, I would probably cry. The two artists I mentioned earlier, Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, experienced this as they created their own murals of a battle scene for the City Hall in Florence, working on it for over a year, just for moisture to ruin the paint on the day it was applied. Their experience reminded me of the verse in Matthew chapter 6, verse 19, where it says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and rust destroy and thieves break in and steal." All the art I make is temporary and could easily be thrown away or destroyed. So keeping that in mind, when I create projects for gifts, I am willingly able to part with my art, even if the recipient doesn't take care of it or keep it. For me, art is more than just a hobby. It is a way for me to express myself even when words fail me. And more importantly, I see it as a way that we evangelize to others, using my God-given talents and skills in drawing to spread God's redemption story. Because it says in Mark chapter 16, verse 15, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature." All my art has plenty of flaws and imperfections, but which I have left untouched, because those flaws give the piece life. Like it says in 2 Corinthians 12, verse 19. It says, "His grace is sufficient for me, for His strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will gladly boast of my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me." I, like my art, have many flaws and imperfections, but I know I have a perfect God who has created me in His image. I do not know if one day in the future I will create a masterpiece that will be hung for all the world to see. But I know when they look at my art, I don't want them to remember me. I want them to see God's amazing love and mercy in my life and remember my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Thank you for listening.